pretty good. And he's got a lot of nice trees.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So,
Almost as bad as being out at Ben's the other day and just getting totally overwhelmed.
okay, so you're getting around, you know people, and so on and so forth. So I would assume that this is his front, your front.
Okay.
And so one of the things that that catches my eye right away is the size of the gin.
Of the gin?
Yeah, yeah. So the length of it and the straightness of it and so forth. And so your tree is flowing which direction?
That way. What, that's where it goes up like this. Mm-hmm. This is the
oh my God, did we have a conversation about this over the weekend? Okay. Does the trunk determine the flow of the tree, or does the crown determine the flow of the tree?
Crown does.
Well, it depends on your point of view.
Yeah.
It was a long discussion. It was a long discussion.
Yeah.
They heard the long in front of it, so
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so if this tree were tilted like this, I would buy into that it flows to the left.
Oh, like my triangle like this?
Yeah. But it's not. but you can fix that. All you have to do is repot it, right?
Yeah.
So if it's this way, I see it is flowing to the right because the initial trunk movement is to the right. Then there's a contrasting movement. And then the entire upper part of the trunk flows to the right. See what I'm
The
getting
tip
at?
goes over here.
And
Right.
the
Yeah.
apex of the tree is,
Right.
yeah.
That's what I was trying to, it goes like
So
this. Yeah.
if you are basing your decision on the flow of the trunk, and this is the potting angle with the rootage being as it is, you would probably say, oh, it flows to the right. On the other hand, if you say, I think I can make this a more interesting tree by doing this, then you would want to change your potting angle. When you repot it, you would probably get a different pot. Not necessarily, but possibly. And you would change the angle and it would look really nice.
So it's.
And you would probably at that point pull your crown over here so there's a consistency to it. See what I'm talking about?
Fill in as far as the leaving and stuff like that, you're talking like this, where this is all, there's no holes or anything
No,
like that?
there always should be holes. I mean, so that if your flow is this way, so that you don't see that the trunk is heading back the other direction, that in the end, it moves back this way somehow. See what I'm doing?
Turn it, twist to it,
Yeah, kind of put it like this.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what you have here, this is kind of a long and not, no matter which way you tilt the tree, that's not a real attractive part of the tree, right? So what you need to do is start defining your foliage masses a little bit on this. Bring these branches out, spread them out, and you need to have. This is an issue where I disagree with some of my colleagues, and many people say cut off all the branches going down and all the branches going up.
Yeah. Or mostly just down, isn't it?
Well, a lot of people say down and up, and of course you need branches coming up. And if you've cut them all off, then you're going to have to take a branch that's gone to the side and lift it up. Otherwise, there's no profile to the branch, right?
Most of the books say down and up.
Yeah, see, yeah. I consider that bad advice.
Yeah, the little ones go up.
Yeah.
They really make a
So
difference.
this is down.
Well, it will naturally grow.
No, they're talking about if they're actually coming straight down out of the branch. That's
Oh, on the bottom. Like
yeah,
down here.
yeah, coming out of the bottom of the branch. Okay, so this is not super attractive, this part, right? So this is important, that this needs to come down.
This
You
come
see-
down?
Look at this.
Oh, that one.
Yeah, because this is the part that you're trying
Ugly.
you're trying to hide that, right?
Right.
So that needs to come down. And this branch is a pretty good location here. And then this, I would put my wire on, I would apply the wire in a clockwise motion. That would allow me to use a certain amount of twist to bring this over like this.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So, in other words, if you, now, as far as reducing foliage, what I like to do, this has all been cleaned out in here. In other words, there's no, there's a little bit of growth in here. I would definitely leave that in because, yeah, because this is the, we were just talking about this, right? You and
Right.
I were just talking
Yes.
about this. What makes one of these plants look like a bonsai instead of a tree is that the branches are too long in proportion to the trunk.
Could you repeat that? The branches are too long, what?
In proportion to the trunk.
In proportion to the trunk. Okay.
Yeah, especially with conifers. Look in nature, no conifer has branches that are as long as the trunk is tall. I mean, it just doesn't exist, but it's very common in bonsai.
It'd be more aggressive.
Yeah, and so, and especially once the foliage gets way out at the ends of the branch, in Japan they call this, the tree has long arms. You know,
Yeah,
it sticks
yeah.
way out there like
Yeah,
that.
and attractive. It's a,
Yeah. So, the thing that you could do is, this could be wired out so that you can place each of the secondary branches where you want them to be. And then, so this branch is very, very heavy back here, but you absolutely need it. You can't get rid of it, but it does have foliage that will hide how thick it is. So in other words, you see?
this one here.
Yeah, that one
Yeah.
there, yeah. So that's pretty thick. It's high up on the tree and it's as thick as the first branch, which is already too thick.
Pretty thick, yeah.
Pretty
Yeah.
thick, yeah.
Yeah.
So this is just an issue of when you're growing bonsai, starting them small. Many years ago, this was back in probably this 1970s. I was in New Orleans. I was at the New Orleans Bonsai Society, and we brought Yuji Yoshimura in, who was like, he and John Naka, was Yuji in the east and John Naka in the west. They were the two big names in bonsai. And so Yuji was visiting us, and he said, the problem with you Americans, he said, and he could have had a whole litany, but he didn't. He said is, you style the tree too soon. So we brought a lot of trees in that were broadleaf trees, deciduous trees, for instance. And we said, okay, this needs a left branch here, and needs a back branch, needs a right branch, and so on. And we ended up with this tree with about 7 branches on it. And it's still a pencil, you know. And he says, by the time this trunk gets big enough to look like a mature tree, that, you know, you can see that, all the branches are going to be too thick also, you know, because you took out all the competition. So he pointed out that in Japan, you know, they would let that tree grow with many branches, so they're in competition with each other, and they're all feeding into the trunk, but they're all competing with each other, right? So the branches stay small while the trunk gets big. And when I was studying with Mr. Mitsuya at Tacoma in Japan, he had these pine trees, black pine trees. They were in 8-inch clay pots like this. And they had probably 5-inch trunks at the base. And what he was doing is, like Jonas likes to use this thing with a big leader, and then he cuts the leader, and then he takes the side. What Mr. Mitsuya was doing is cutting back repeatedly, and so it just looked like a shrub.
A big hedge,
Just branches
coming
everywhere.
out everywhere.
Yeah, but they created, this was a 20-year process.
Oh,
still.
yeah.
But what he had was this fabulous tapering, massive trunk on trees like
Yes.
10 inches tall. And
Yeah.
so, we'll see, so when the tree is styled initially while it's so very small, then you do run into problems like that with branches that are proportionally too big, so.
Right.
But
I don't have 20
who
years.
wants to wait?
Oh, yeah.
Who wants to wait? Okay, so my advice to you on this tree is I would get some wire on it, and I would, as far as how to apply the wire, what you're going to need is you always need something to anchor the wire to. So in other words, you're going to have wire around the trunk in this tree, probably because you need to have a fixed point. In other words, you need to have a fulcrum or a fixed point for the wire. And you can't use these two branches. You know, when you use one wire for two branches like this, you can move them kind of this way and this way, but when you try to do this, you start running into kind of a teeter-totter, because as you lower one branch, you're releasing the tension on the other one, and then as you lift one branch, you're releasing the tension on the other one. So that never works well.
Oh, okay, because they say to go one way on this one and go the other way on
But
that
what
one.
I'm getting,
It's still
what
gonna
I'm
teeter.
getting at is that this is not a secure thing if you need to change this kind of position this way.
Oh,
So,
okay.
Up and down.
unfortunately, I would let the wire show and anchor to my back branch, and then I just have to let it show and come around here.
Okay,
And
so,
then- And then I would take my wire out, and you always do it by size class, okay? So in other words, in this case, you have competing branches that are kind of the same size class, but actually the biggest branch and the most visible is this. I would treat this as a continuation of the primary branch. So I would, my wire, my first wire, the one that's most important, I would bring out to this one.